Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tips for Maximizing Your Blended Learning Resources. We're going to just wait a little bit for people to go ahead and log in. If you're just now joining us, welcome to Tips for Maximizing Your Blended Learning Resources. We're just waiting a few minutes to allow people to get situated and logged in. So we'll start in a few minutes. And while we're waiting, if you want to put where you're from in the chat, that would be great. We're going to hopefully use this chat a little bit during this session. So it looks like we have a lot of people from the Midwest, Chicago, Indiana, Pennsylvania. I got Oklahoma, Philadelphia, South Dakota, Mississippi. Hopefully those people that are in or near the storm are safely hunkered down. We got some people from Maine, Kentucky, Martinsville, Virginia, Massachusetts. There's a question in here about how do you get certificates. We will be issuing certificates at the end of this. So if you've registered, you will receive one. Got people from Pinellas County, Florida. Hello to all of you. Nashville, South Carolina, New York. Okay, so I think we're about 2 minutes past the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Dan, if you're on, if you want to go ahead and hit broadcast so that we are recording this, and if you can't do that.
I already did.
Perfect. Okay, great, thank you. All right, so good afternoon and welcome to Tips for Maximizing Your Blended Learning Resources. My name is Karen Welch and I am the Director of Sales for New Readers Press. Today we are going to examine some platforms that you can use immediately. We'll take a look at practical applications of 3 specific platforms: NRP Online Learning, Google's Jamboard, and Microsoft's OneNote. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. We are recording this webinar, so if you did register, you will get this recording. I will also provide this PowerPoint. And if you're interested, I can share the resources that I've built for Jamboard, as well as some of the resources from OneNote when this is
I think
done.
we just lost Karen's audio. Karen, if you can hear me, we lost your audio.
Can you hear me now? All right, I'm gonna assume people can hear me because I see my microphone going up and down. So this is just always one of the glitches of technology. All right.
Like we're back.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully it'll stay on.
Says it's still recording.
Okay, great, thank you. Today's objectives. So today I want to just review with you some research that we recently conducted related to COVID. This might help you feel less alone in your dilemmas as you move forward with new semesters. We're also going to take a look at some elements that you can explore to help you plan if you have determined that you are going to do more remote teaching than blended learning and or face-to-face. And then we'll review some of the features of each of the platforms. So this is going to include NRP Online Learning, Google's Jamboard, and Microsoft's OneNote. And then I'm going to show you some practical applications. So I've built a couple of these already, and then we'll take some additional questions. So before we get started, I wanted to take a quick little poll. So if you don't mind, Dan, if you could launch the poll. Let's just say if age is only a state of mind, which category best describes your state of mind during COVID? Did you feel like a testy toddler, a panicked teenage driver, a gone wild college student, or perhaps an introspective 30-something? Maybe you found yourself being a fabulous 40-year-old or a midlifer in the middle of a midlife crisis, or perhaps you were one of those carefree retirees. You may have felt more than one of these, so feel free to check all that apply. All right, and Dan, how's our poll looking?
We have 60 out of 75, out of 78 have responded. I can click on end whenever you're ready.
All right, well, let's go ahead and end this and see what kind of results we got. Wow, it looks like a majority of you felt like you were in the middle of a midlife crisis. Second to that, we got 23%, actually 30% felt like carefree retirees, which that's good. And then we had some 32% that felt like they were introspective 30-somethings. So all good. At least not too many people felt like testy toddlers or gone wild college students. So thank you for taking that. In March of this year, many teachers moved classes to online learning out of necessity. Oops, sorry, let me go back here. While this was not an ideal situation, teachers adapted to it as best they could. I liken it to being pushed out of an airplane at the cruising altitude of 30,000 feet with a parachute thrown out shortly thereafter. It was a difficult situation, and although many programs had no prior experience with this, they shifted rapidly to offer distance learning. As they gained knowledge, they evolved their approaches along with tools and resources and somehow managed to catch the parachute, put it on, and land. We also learned that many students felt much the same way and experienced their own set of obstacles. While this was not an ideal situation, teachers adapted to it as best they could. The situation was made more problematic due to the speed in which the transition took place and the lack of preparation time. So what did we learn? Pro Literacy, in collaboration with EdTech Center and Open Door Collective, recently released the COVID-19 Rapid Response Report from the field. You can find the full report on the Pro Literacy site, the link on the screen. Let's take a look at some of the research and some of the takeaways. The data shows that to conduct this teachers should be prepared with synchronous tools and resources. The use of teacher-created videos, text messages, or email communications, the use of Google tools like Google Meets, Google Classroom, and Jamboard, which we'll talk about today. Creative setups for hotspots or connectivity, including the use of school parking lots to extend use and access to safely. Creativity is the mother of all inventions, and we saw some innovative programs continue to deliver instruction. There were also significant demands on the learner's time, ability in many cases, the lack of resources and stress that overwhelmed them too. These included childcare needs, technology limitations either due to lack of devices or the capacity to use them effectively, and of course the need for many learners to continue to work. Obstacles lead to opportunities, and we saw many who embraced the challenges, including watching teachers expand their knowledge and teaching practice to incorporate creative ways to engage learners, teachers who adapted quickly and embraced new tools in creative, innovative ways, staff and states that came together to share best practices and newfound knowledge of either tools or practices that worked, a higher level of support and collaboration among educators that led to additional professional development opportunities for teachers, and ways for learners to control their learning time and participation by being able to complete tasks without the need to attend classes and to participate via chat instead of face-to-face discussions. So Dan, if you want to launch our second poll. That would be the first one. There should be another one in there.
I'm trying. Oh, no. Sorry.
That's okay.
And there were some comments about your audio. It seems to have gotten better. It was a little choppy for a bit.
Yeah, I have a problem with this audio. I don't know what it is. All right, so our second poll today is, which of the following synchronous tools have you used in the last few months to teach learners remotely? So you will have an opportunity to select all that apply. You'll see the choices are going to be Canvas or Blackboard, NRP Online Learning, Zoom, other webcasting resources like WebEx, Google Classroom, other software like Burlington English or any others you might be using, OneNote, Jamboard, or other. And Dan, if you could just let me know when we're fairly close to.
Okay, we're at 50 now, but they're still coming in.
Okay.
I'll watch for it to slow down. We're now up to 65%. So if we get to 70, I will hit end poll. And there we go.
All right, so it looks like a majority of you used Zoom as one of your primary resources. Some other people used Google Classroom. Others were relying on some software. Doesn't look like anybody has used Jamboard at all, and very few have used OneNote. So we'll talk about both of those today. I would be intrigued if people want to put in the chat what your other was, just so we can see what else people were using. So it looks like WhatsApp and a few other apps that are out there. Okay, so distance learning in some form is here to stay. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that investments in technology, tools, hardware and broadband, professional development for teachers, and research in how learners respond to a variety of teaching tools and techniques are all essential. We know that blended learning has the ability to transform what we do in ways that can make the biggest impact on our learners. So let's dive in and see how we can tap some of the things that we learned from the research. First, the research exposed one main flaw, and that is failure to plan is preparation to fail. And while many of us did not have a plan to take our lessons into a fully immersed blended learning environment, we now know that a plan is essential. So here's some elements you should consider including as part of your plan. The first one is going to be learning goals and objectives. These should be aligned to support learner outcomes. Next, you want to consider ongoing communications. So how are you going to tackle ongoing communications with your students? And the research suggests that you keep your interactions frequent but short. Use a student profile survey to find out what type of access your learner has, everything from Wi-Fi to internet to Microsoft applications to hardware. Do they have a printer or scanner in the home, and do they know how to use it? Building a student tech profile can be useful in helping you plan your students and your lessons and student expectations. Next, consider student-centered content. Using student-centered content that is either provided by vendors or integrating open source materials in your lessons can go a long way to creating a higher level of student engagement. Try to mix video and audio files, timelines, online scavenger hunts, the use of breakout sessions when using webcasting services like Zoom or WebEx. Select methods that work for most learners. If learners are tech adverse or don't have the means to participate due to lack of internet or Wi-Fi challenges, you may need to provide print packets instead. Balance the instruction. Look to balance your instruction so it includes a variety of tools and means to deploy your lessons. This may include an instructor-led session mixed with independent learning or combining an open-sourced video with a critical thinking prompt. And I'll show you a couple of those today. Self-assessment. Be honest with your self-assessments. Determine your confidence level with using technology and seek out support if necessary. Additionally, ask your students to assess what they liked and didn't like about a lesson. Gaining this feedback will help you adjust in real time and review what worked and what didn't. And finally, training. Include some training to ensure a smooth delivery across all platforms used and provide technical support to students as needed. Keep in mind that you will experience technology glitches or setbacks from time to time, if we've experienced here today, so keep those in stride. While blended learning at first might seem more difficult, there are a number of advantages to you as a teacher and to programs as we move closer to a more permanent deployment of blended learning classes in adult education. These include the ability to fully monitor student progress and time on task, taking problem solving to the next level and challenging both your students' approach to problem solving as well as your own, enhancing your creativity, and today I'll show you a couple of tech tools that you can use to add level engagement for you and your students. Build your own tech skills with tools and discover your untapped creativity. And because tech allows for a fair amount of flexibility, students never have to feel like they missed out. There are many ways to record and post your class or content. So what's it going to take to add some creativity to your assignments while also adding a level of engagement? I'm going to share with you a short list of items that you can use now depending on your program's budget. I'll then show you how they can be used to create dynamic, engaging lessons. And I've also rated these in terms of a tech score. Easy means nearly anyone can understand and use it. It's not sophisticated at all and has a few bells and whistles. Medium means that it does require a level of tech knowledge and use by and with other tech-based products like Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts, Google Classroom, or Meet. So know that you may have to put a little more extra time and effort into these, more so than the ones I've rated easy. And I'm not adding any tools that require a high level of technical expertise. Was that a silent cheer I just heard? So let's talk about some of the infrastructure students are going to need in order to be successful with some of these tools. First and foremost, I think that we all learned a device or access to a device is essential. They also need the ability and knowledge to download apps and software like Zoom, NRP Online Learning, and other applications from the Apple or Google Play Store. And this may mean that you'll have to provide training on how to download apps separately from any software training that you do. Knowledge of how to use Blackboard, Canvas, or Schoology if you intend to use one of those. Students will also need to become familiar with programs like OneNote and Jamboard and the features offered in both of these platforms. And for NRP Online Learning, learners will need a subscription or access to the platform. And finally, if you or your learners have a touch-activated device, I suggest that students opt in for a stylus pen if it's not too expensive. So let's talk about what you need as a teacher on your infrastructure side. Like students, the teachers are going to need to be familiar with software and platform features. You're also going to need more time to plan lessons and activities and increase student interest and engagement. You're going to need access to a Google suite of products if you decide to use things like Jamboard or Google Classroom, as well as those offered by Microsoft, and licenses. So if you need licenses for software, those will need to be purchased. Teachers are also going to need to have their own device, so in the event that we have to take those home, you can do so. And again, if you have a touch-activated laptop, I also suggest a stylus pen for yourself, and I'll show you why when we come to looking at math and using that with some of these. So let's talk about what you're going to put in your toolbox, and I'm just going to show you what these look like at a glance, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of these features. Here are some tools I'm recommending that you use to continue remote synchronous teaching. You're going to need some kind of webcasting service, whether it be Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, or GoToMeeting. NRP Online Learning, and we'll get to that in a minute. Jamboard is going to be one that you can use to build lessons, engage learners, and customize lesson plans. And then OneNote, which will allow teachers to collaborate on a lesson plan, push assignments out to students, and also collect completed ones back for grading purposes. Since COVID, many programs have grown comfortable with Zoom, and Zoom offers many features to connect face-to-face with learners. It's my understanding that a lot of states are also changing how they record proxy hours, so students who attend classes via Zoom can count those hours as time on task. One downside to Zoom is the amount of bandwidth required, but you can have students turn off their video to save bandwidth if necessary. And I've rated this tech tool very easy since it's nearly foolproof for both users, and it's easy to download, install, and get started. Keep in mind though that if you have the 40-minute version, or if you have the free version, you may only get 40 minutes out of your time. Online learning can be used to teach students either remote synchronously or as part of a blended or hybrid format. It has content designed to prepare learners for pre-HSC, GED, HiSET, and will soon be adding a task series to the content. The series is fully mobile ready and learners can use the series offline without Wi-Fi or internet after downloading the app and putting their phones in airplane mode. For programs who are looking for grants, ProLiteracy offers a grant for this series, and applications can be found at the ProLiteracy site. Just look for the Mobile Learning Fund grant. And we'll take a closer look at this series. I've rated this series also easy to use. One note I want to make that if you are using this series as part of a blended learning or hybrid class, the series is identical in content to the books that we have here. So if you're using our pre-HSC series, the content is identical to our core skills. For GED level math, it's identical to our Math Sense series. For GED RLA, it's identical to our Writing for the GED series, and for Science and Social Studies, it's identical to our Science and Social Studies books for the GED. For those of you on the call who are using HiSET, the content is identical to our HiSET student books, and those are the ones that form the basis of this. One last note on NRP Online Learning. If you would like to participate in a free 90-day pilot with both access to the teacher and student platforms, with the opportunity to enroll active students, feel free to email your rep to get a pilot going. Or if you'd prefer to request a free 30-day trial of just the student platform, you can also request that from your rep. Some of the applications that you can use with this is you can teach both pre-HSC and GED content because it's already built into the program. You have the ability also to build reading and vocabulary skills. There are flashcards within the series as well as callouts for definitions. And it's ideal for promoting critical thinking discussions, solving math problems, and advancing a learner's active reading skills. For those of you unfamiliar with Google's Jamboard, it's part of the Google suite of products and it is free. It's free for all users. It does require a Gmail account for setup and use. But it can be used with Zoom and Canvas. And for those of you who are using it, I recommend using Chrome. It works best in terms of browsers. And I've also rated this as very easy to use. If you're looking just to kind of quick start and get on board, I have listed here 4 separate short videos. These will all take you through how to get started with Jamboard, but I'll show you what you can do with it once you have gotten started. For those of you who are or will be using OneNote, you can also use OneNote with Microsoft Teams and other platforms. And this can help you pivot and move into creating digital lessons with a degree of ease and engagement. Note that there are 3 versions of this series, so be mindful of the one that you download. While there is a free one out there, there may be some limitations with the free versus those that are paid. So the one I'm going to be demonstrating for you today is one that I have. It is connected to Windows 10, and my version came with my Microsoft 365 subscription. I'm not going to be demonstrating necessarily how it works with Microsoft Teams or Classroom, but I will give you some sense of where you can find that information. You do have the ability to collaborate on lessons with your colleagues that only you and your colleagues can see. And it's a great way to just be able to do some unique and interesting things with your learners. I've rated this one medium, one because it does require a certain level of technical skills and abilities, and you do need some familiarity with some of the other Microsoft tools. Again, to get you started, I have collected a series of videos all from YouTube. So these will take you through how to use OneNote just in general, or if you want some more advanced ways, the ones that are going to be at the bottom are going to be for the advanced users. So we're going to go out now live, and I'm going to take you out to our NRP Online Learning series and show you how that can be used in a teaching environment. here. Okay, so now on the screen, you should see the main login page for NRP Online Learning. So I'm gonna just hit this login button. If you have a current subscription, you're gonna go here and log in. And when I log in, I'm gonna be logging into my teacher account. So this is my teacher account. I'm gonna go to this study tab. When you go to the study tab in NRP Online Learning, you're going to have full access to all of the courses that you have loaded in your instructor view. This is one of my courses, which is going to be GED Math. So when you log in here, when you go under this course tab, you have the structured plan, which is everything and all of the lessons that we have listed here. But you also have the ability to create custom curriculum tabs. So I'm going to take you into this custom curriculum tab because I've created some custom curriculum. This is a way that you can kind of reduce the access or reduce the content to maybe just covering one particular area of need within the course content. So when I go under curriculum, you'll see where I've created a couple of different curriculum content areas, and I'm going to go to this GED Math. And when I go to this GED Math, Algebra, and Geometry, you'll see where I only have a couple of lessons loaded in here, and they're pretty targeted. So we are going to go to one that I've got in here, Exponents and Roots. So if I was teaching this, because I have an instructor account, I can actually go under this little pencil and create my own notes. So some of the notes that I've created for myself in here are going to be my complete instructional plan for providing this lesson in a remote synchronous environment. So if I needed to refer back to this, I could. I could start with a warm-up of a video that I've captured from Khan Academy. I could just review that we're going to go over vocabulary and discuss a few examples of words. I can put in a definition of the words, of the word exponent, and give a couple of examples. I can review the examples in the lesson. So you'll see down here that there are examples already built in. So if I wanted to, I could show these examples to my students and we can talk about each of these. And in addition to that, further down the page, you're going to see vocabulary terms. So if I wanted to, we could click on these and discuss each of the vocabulary terms individually. One other thing that I could do in here, if I go back up to my lesson plan, I pulled a game that comes from our TABE Mastery, and this comes from the TABE Mastery Teacher Guide, page 65. So I could institute a game that my students and I could play in real time called Two Truths and a Lie, where they would put up an exponent expression and we could decide whether it is two truths and a lie. Then I could have learners either review these flashcards. So if I wanted to reduce the flashcards in a specific way, I can go here to filter and select only the exponents and roots words that I wanted to go over. I can update this, and then we can go through these definitions and words together. The other thing that I could do is I could set up a game. So if I wanted my learners to pick teams, they could pick teams and we could start a vocabulary math flashcard game, in which case they would take turns with their teammates, matching up a definition with a word. and we could start that over. One other thing I could do with this, and going back to the course, one other thing that we could do is I could go straight into these practice questions, and we could take a look at these questions together. I could use these practice questions also as guided practice to help learners understand the concept and to check for understanding. So I'll just show you what a couple of these look like. I'm just gonna slip a number in here. And those are some ways that we could use it. Also, if I wanted to demonstrate how to use some of the different features that are embedded in here, if I wanted to show students how they can highlight on their own, I could demonstrate that by showing them how they can highlight a word or a phrase and go up here to the highlighter, and it will automatically highlight for them. I could also show them how to bookmark this. So they're just going to go over here and bookmark it. And when they go over to the highlights, it will say what they highlighted. And if I were to go to the bookmarks, it'll tell me what they bookmarked. They can go over here and preview the lesson. And then if they wanted to go straight to the lesson, they can go down here to go to lesson. One other thing that I can do with this is if I needed to put in a discussion or outside content. So let's say I wanted to add a video or additional worksheets for my learners. I can do that through this discussions tab. And when I click on the discussions tab, I can see a video link that I've put in here. The learners can copy and paste this video link into a new web browser.
I had a little bird. It was Enza. I opened the window and influenza.
So those are just some ways that you can use NRP Online Learning to do some real live teaching. Obviously, you'll need to review some of the lessons and take a look at the content, but it is all loaded into there, and it's a great way for you to show some lessons and to take a look at some math content. This is branded as NRP Online Learning. It is not Learning Upgrade. That's a different product. Okay, so we're going to leave here, and I'm going to show you Jamboard. Let me make sure. Okay, so everybody now should see a Jamboard screen. The way to get to your Jamboard is, let me just show you that really quick. You're going to go to your little waffle, and when you click on your waffle, you're just going to scroll down, and Jamboard is going to be right here. It's this big capital J. So to take you through Jamboard, Jamboard is very easy to use. It can be used by students, and it can also be used by you as a teacher. So there's a variety of ways that you can use this, and this is just kind of one I built to show you some multiple uses and applications for it. Jamboard is almost like a glorified whiteboard if I got married to a PowerPoint. So this first page that you see here titled How to Use Jamboard with Your Students, this is a page that I actually created in my PowerPoint and copied and pasted straight into the Jamboard. Up here tells you how many frames you have, and you can expand this by using this downward arrow so that you can see all your frames in real time. These plus symbols here allow you to add a new frame in there. So it's very easy to do. And I'll take you through this once we've kind of gone through this little Jamboard here. So a couple of ways in which you can use Jamboard. You can use it for if you wanted to have students create their own vision board. So if you're going to be using it to teach social and emotional as a part of your social and emotional learning tools, you can have students create their own vision board for themselves. They can copy and paste different images. To do that, you're just going to go down here to add image. If they have files in their computer, they're going to upload it here. If you want to grab an image from Google, you can type in whatever you want. It's not correct, but you can select any of these pictures here, or you can select it from your Google Drive. Or if you have photos loaded in your computer, you can select those here. This is also ideal for those of you that are going to be teaching ESL students. So this is just a way for your students to discuss how they feel about COVID, and they can post their responses. So you can see that each of these is linked to a student. You can use this as part of your morning routine. So if I wanted Rebecca to tell me what her morning routine is, she could use different images she finds through Google and then label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can also be used for workplace conversations. So if I wanted to create some workplace conversations or speaking and listening skills, I could do it where part of this is scripted and part of it is not, and set up a hotel clerk and a guest scenario for my learners so that it will take them through. This is also kind of a perfect thing to do for those learners that maybe you want to review with interviewing skills. You can also use it to discuss how you fill out a form. So you can go through a form. This is just something that I copied and pasted straight from one of the documents we have loaded in our WorkWise free resources components. And it's great also to use with ABE students, so you can do some active reading skills. This right here is basically a text box that I just dropped in from here. To change your text box, you're just gonna click on the 3 little dots. You can edit, duplicate it, delete it, or if I want to bring it forward or backward, you can do that here. Each of these are just a sticky note that I added, and these sticky notes are very easy to add. So you just type on the sticky note and put it in, and then you can move it around and do anything you want to with this, including just shifting the way it looks on the page. Jamboards can also be used and be useful for teaching science. So if I wanted to go through the scientific method, I could have learners state the problem. They could also go on here and use the highlighter feature and highlight something. I'm not very good at this when I'm using my mouse. Could also be used for social studies. So if I wanted students to order these as a sequence of events, they can just take these, move them around, start with what happened first, what happened second, what happened third, and order them however they'd like. You can also use it to teach math. So this background offers you the opportunity to change your background. So this happens to be a Jamboard, but you can also use graph paper. I can use a different color graph paper, or you can just use a dark background. So it's totally up to you about how you want to do it. This circle basically came in straight from here. So you can drop in a figure. Unfortunately, this is the only figure that you can drop in. And then all I did was draw a line using the pen and the on the board. One other thing that you can do, if you do have a stylus pen, it's a little bit easier to do it this way. But you can show in real time how a student might graph something. and or solve a problem. Again, that's pretty easy to do. You're just gonna change your background and put in the graph paper like I did here. And then you can use a stylus pen to draw on here, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. One other thing I can do is if I want to show what the steps are for a particular problem. So here I'm going to have my students solve an inequality. They're going to show me step by step how they go about doing it. So they're going to put in step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. All right, so I'll show you really quick how to do a graph. I'm just going to go in here and select this graph paper. And then I select on here, I'm actually going to use my stylus. So what you're seeing next is me using my stylus pen to draw right on the screen. And let's say I wanted to write the problem. It will go ahead and just write that problem directly on here. And then I can work to solve it. So if I wanted a learner to tell me, well, what are the X and Y values? I could also turn this same Jamboard over to that learner. You will have to give them editing access to this. So if this is a Jamboard that you don't want a student to make changes on, you'll have to give them their own Jamboard in order to do something like that. If you have multiple Jamboards, and I'll just show you a couple that I have here. This is the one that we did recently. This is one I created for math, and this is one that I created just for RLA and pre-HSC. So this is just showing you a couple of different ways that you can use these Jamboards. I'm gonna go into this math Jamboard really quick just to show you a few things that I took from the NRP online learning content. So in this one, this particular quote or sentence that's here, I took directly from NRP online learning and just dropped it in. Same with this ones place. I did the same thing here with the tens and the hundreds. So this is just making a basic illustration of exactly what that looks like. So I could explain it to somebody who is maybe at a low level in math and doesn't understand place value. You can also show learners in here what some keywords and phrases are. So again, this is just something that I copied and pasted straight out of NRP online learning. Again, just showing you how to take it a step further. And then I put in some guided practice. Again, same thing, so we could work out a problem together. And then if I wanted to, I could have students go ahead and solve this, noting what each of their steps are in order to do this. And the only thing they would need to do is just drop in a text document, and they can size this depending on what they want to do and move this around. They can also make this box long if they want to do it that way. So those are just a couple of different ways you can use Jamboard. We're going to go now, and I'm going to show you a few things that you can use for OneNote. So does anybody, if you have any questions on this, if you want to put it in the chat box. All right, and now I'm moving to OneNote. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I have built a couple of different things in here. So to give you a quick tour of OneNote, it looks a lot like some of the Microsoft products. So you're going to have a home, insert, draw button, a view, help. You also have a class notebook. When you click on class notebook, if you are going to use this for a class, you're going to find that you can create a class notebook, so you can add students if you want to. There's an add or remove students button here. You also have the ability to add or remove teachers. You can manage your notebooks from here. You can also manage classes with links. And professional development is really just a list of ways that you can kind of use OneNote in here. So it sort of depends on what your level of expertise is with OneNote as to whether or not you'll find what you want in here. With this particular graphic here, I just created it using the drawing feature. So I went in and drew some shapes and then did an ink to shapes just to make these a little nicer. I added just this main idea in here. And then you have the ability to add what they call tags. So a tag can be, you know, an important, a question, remember for later. You can create your own tag. So I created a read tag. But these to-dos are really great if you want to add some to-do lists for your students in here. And they're just super easy to go ahead and add in. You're just going to hit the enter key and you can add as many of these as you'd like. Same with the details. So again, you can kind of move those around. A couple other things that you can do with this, if you want to go ahead and you can create line paper. You also have graph paper. You can segment these any way you'd like. I can add, again, these check boxes if I want to for students to check off themselves. I can add images and pictures. So these are just a couple of different ones I've put in here where I've got images and pictures listed. I could split these up. So if I wanted group 1 to read excerpt 1, I could do it that way. If I wanted group 2 to read excerpt 2, we could do it that way. Some other things that are kind of cool is you can put together a table and you can manage these tables however you want. So you're just gonna go over here and insert table. When you insert table, you're just gonna have to determine how many rows and columns you want to cross. You can always make edits to these as you go. And then this is a way for you and your students just to kind of check these things off as they're learning them. I can add additional tables in here so they can do what is the topic of the passage. And the student also has the ability to write on this. So I'm just going to write on this with my stylus pen. Okay. The other thing that's kind of cool about this is you can use lots of different features in here. So again, I just took a shape, dropped in an image, did the same thing here, just created a shape and dropped in a definition in a text box. I got another checkbox over here. If I wanted to, I can do the same thing I just demonstrated using Jamboard. So you can, again, with this, draw a line or a graph and put your segment anywhere you want. I'm going to come back to this quadratic equations. You also have the ability using this up here, which is the, it's what they call a math add-on. So I'll demonstrate that when I demonstrate this solving a quadratic equation, but you can basically drop both of these things in here and it will ask you if you want to graph the problem or to solve the problem. And if you're going to solve the problem, it will tell you exactly what the steps are. But before we get to that, I want to show you just some things that you can drop in here from a few other standpoints. So this is one I just did for GED Science. And again, I just copied and pasted some content from the NRP online learning. This is Unit 2, Lesson 3. This is straight out of the online content. I put in a little check boxes here for the students to do. And I've also added this video at the bottom. So you'll see that when you go to this video, I can play it immediately straight from here. I don't need to go out to the internet or copy and paste a link and put it in a separate, browser. The other thing that's kind of cool is I can have students directly take notes or make highlights on here. This is just a way for me to write notes. And the other thing I added at the bottom here is a mind map. So if you wanted to have students do some mind mapping, this is another way that you could have them do some mind mapping. I'm going to go back here to solving quadratic equations just to show this to you, and then I'll quickly demonstrate what this looks like, and we'll take some questions. But to do a quadratic equation, you can write this directly on the screen the way you see it. You can do ink to text. So this basically took what I wrote and inked it. And then I went over here to this little math box, and it will ask you, do you want to solve for X or do you want to solve for Y? And then once you have that done, it will go ahead and do that exactly for you. So there's also a feature in here that you can use that will, there's also a feature in here that you can use that will allow you to create a quiz. For whatever reason, I haven't been able to get mine to work, but I do know that that is available. So I'm going to show you really quick what happens when you add a new page in here. Let's go. So I've taken the liberty of just adding a new page. I just said new page on here, just so you can see what this looks like. If I wanted to view it, I'm going to view it a little bit differently. So you're going to click on this little view tab. If you go to this ruled lines, you can either have your grids be small, I can have my grids be large, or I can make them larger or even larger. So it just sort of depends on what the context of your lesson is. You can make it college ruled. I can make it a little bit wider than that, or I can make it really wide. So this allows you to kind of customize any of your content for the ability of your learners. So let's go over here to the graphing, and I'm going to write in a problem. Once I type this problem, I'm going to go over here to the draw button and lasso this problem. Excuse me. And then I'm going to have it ink to text. Oh, sorry. I've had problems with this before. Sometimes it these things get a little finicky. I'm going to go over here and just write this. So I'm going to lasso this problem. No, it's not going to do it for me. Hold on. I'm going to erase this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just insert this problem old-fashioned way by typing it. All right, let me try this again. That was a little closer. So I'll just change this to a 2. We'll put in 5. Once you click on this little button, it'll ask you to solve for X or Y. So it's kind of just put this in here, but if you wanted to solve using substitution, I can do it this way. And then I'm just going to move this over here. One other thing that's kind of cool about OneNote is there's an immersive reader on here. So when you go to the immersive reader,
to solve a pair of equations using substitution, first solve one of the equations for one of the variables. Then substitute the result for that variable in the other equation. Open brace, x plus y equals 3x minus y equals 1.
So I think that kind of gives you a good example of how to use these different things. I'm going to go to the questions just to see if there's anything that anybody has written in here that we need to respond to. My definition of blended learning is using it as both book plus online content. NRP online learning is just the software that you would use. Let's see, the content that comes from this, some of it is content that was created by NRP, and some of it was just stuff I've found on the internet. Some of it's also from YouTube, so it comes from a variety of sources. So this is just showing you a way that you can combine all of these with your online, in your online lessons and with your learners. And I know that some of this can be overwhelming, but I promise you that especially Jamboard, it is a very user-friendly, easy platform to use. If you take the time to look through some of those videos, you're going to see where they'll give you some additional ideas. You can create a Jamboard for every learner, and they can be working individually on different sets of problems. So you'll see in real time kind of where all that is headed. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint really quick just to wrap this up, and we'll take any questions after that. So I'm just going to leave you with a couple of things. I would encourage you to use technology to channel your inner creativity and to make you blossom and flow as a little butterfly out in the world of lesson planning. For those of you who have never purchased from NRP, we make it pretty easy. We are an adult education company that's been in business for over 50 years, and all we do is adult education. We've never been in K-12. Know that a portion of all the proceeds that you send to us goes back to support literacy programs for adult learners and the work that Pro Literacy does in terms of advocacy. In the creation of our materials, we solicit feedback from educators so that we can mold these products based on what your needs are and what you want to see. And I do believe we produce high quality, low cost materials for all learners. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to put them, I don't see anything in the Q&A, so I'll see if there are any more in the chat box. We'll also send any questions that we didn't get to. We'll send those out as well, along with copies of the content and the PowerPoint. And if anybody's interested in having access to the shared materials, the Jamboards that I created, you can let me know. One last thing I will leave you with is contact information. So I cover the states of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. If you are in any of those states, please feel free to contact me directly. at 404-580-1563 or kwelch@proliteracy.org. If you reside in any of those other states, there is a link on this particular slide. And we also have one out on our website. Feel free to contact your sales rep to get either a 90-day pilot for NRP online learning or any additional information. And or if you have questions and you want to ask your sales rep, feel free to contact your sales rep for anything else that we can provide you with. And I want to thank everybody for your time today. You all are doing all the heavy lifting out there with your students, and I'm always amazed at all of the different things that people are willing to share. So we really appreciate all your hard work and everything that you do. I do believe we have one question. Okay, Cassia, if you want to put your address information or your email into the chat box, we'll be sure to capture it from there, and we can go ahead and send that information back out to you. All right, well, if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to end this for the day. And we're right at 4:01. So again, thank you everyone for your time, energy, and efforts, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Dan.